Hi guys, so it's the January transfer window. That means loads of deals are being done, even more rumours are being put around, but also that must mean that agents are involved. They've become a huge part of football now. And Jim Erwood is still an agent, but has kind of sort of moved away from it a little bit. Jim actually works with us at Ball Street now, managing some of the talent and doing bits and bobs for us, I guess. Not cleaning and things like that, like high profile stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But Jim was an agent, so we thought this would be a really good chance for us to talk about the real truth, the life of an agent, and what they have to go through, and if they are as bad as everyone seems to paint out. So I guess the first question is, who have you been an agent for, and how did you get into it?
Well, how I got into it, I like a lot of agents, really. I think they're failed players, and you'll see some of the agents today, and they dress up at a meeting, they look like the player, they got these dodgy haircuts, and they might have like the attaché briefcase from Louis Vuitton. So I think that was never my motivation. My motivation was, although the Louis Vuitton briefcase.
Take yourself down
So I wanted to play a player. I was a half decent player, used to represent my county, captain the county and that stuff, and got in an England schoolboy squad, but was never good enough. I got distracted by other things, but so I realised I was probably had more brains up here than I did in my feet. So I went to university, and my dissertation was on agents and how they affect the game. So that was like, by the age of 18, 19, realised I was going to make it.
And when was this? Was this at a point when because agents is all people talk about now, and the things that are doing, the money that they're taking.
Yeah.
How big a deal was it back then? When was that?
That was in the 90s, so late 90s. So agents were established, some companies like First Artist, John Smith, and they were kind of my heroes, if you like. The first one I was aware of was Eric Hall, who went from music to football, and he was Dennis Wise's agent. But then some more sort of credible guys came along, like John Smith and First Artist, some really good companies, and they kind of opened the market really and created this industry that was agents. And for me it was fascinating, and for me it was a great opportunity to stick to something I love, which was football, and obviously make a career out of. And
was it the idea of being on the inside of it, is that a big thing?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. If you're into football and all you talk about is football, and still my mates come to me now and ask me, even though I've kind of taken a step back from the industry, they're asking me if I know of the rumours of Pedro is going to whoever, or Chelsea. I don't know, but that was always a good motivation. You're inside the game, and you kind of do hear whispers, and that was definitely a big motivation. But let's have it right. I think money does attract people to this industry. That wasn't my sole motivation back in the day, but obviously, when you're young, you want to have a career, and that for me looked like a great career where I could earn some money and do something that I loved. So that was at the heart of it. So I said my dissertation was on agents, and kind of back then you kind of think you're going to walk out of university and step in and become an agent. And even today I get like emails every week from a guy who's either at university or he might be in like recruitment or something like that, and they say, Jim, how do you get to become an agent? And really it's about having contacts. So you don't walk out university and become an agent unless you're the best mate of the next Wayne Rooney, and then you've got a chance. By leveraging that relationship. But so for me, I kind of left university and then went to work for an agency that was kind of a middleman, and so the way that would work, like an advertising agency or PR company would come to me or the company I work for and said, we want to book a sports personality for this public appearance. So I was kind of around it, and then I went to work for IMG, who are one of the biggest. Well, they actually established the agent world when they took on Arnold Palmer back in the 60s. They were the first agents. They're a worldwide company now. So I was kind of, I was on the outside looking in, still wanted to be an agent, but no one really take me on, and I would write away to all these agents, but they wouldn't take you. But then as soon as I had that IMG contact, that kind of allowed me, open a few doors, and one company in Hertfordshire, which was ran by a guy called Mick Mills, who was the 1982 England captain, right back in Ipswich legend. I'm sure the fans out there will know who he is. He was starting up an agency with a wealthy benefactor, and that's how I kind of got my foot in the door. But it took a while, and that's how I started.
So, but a lot of agents, I would guess, are just the best mate of someone. Is that the case?
No, I wouldn't say that is the case, because even then, I mean, if I'm your best mate and you're a player, and I say I want to be your agent, if you've got half a brain, you're going to turn around and say, well, what can you do for me? Right. So, yeah, that could help, and there might be one or two agents like that, and like Nicholas Anelka was a great example of that. Like his brothers were his agent. Yeah. But really, I think, and back when I was doing it, really sort of mid 2000, 2005, around that period, and even more now, there was more agents. It got to the point where there was more agents than there were players that could actually earn you money. Because if you look at the Premiership and how many are actually English, you're talking, I think, let's say 20% are English, and a lot of them are snaffled by the big agencies who've been established. You've got credibility, you've got really big clients, and if you're the next Wayne Rooney and I come up to you and say, okay, well, here's my client list, I've got Alan Shearer, I've got Michael Owen, I've got Wayne Rooney, you're much more inclined to go with someone like that who's got the pedigree, got the talent, than you are your best mate, or someone who's just left university and thinks they're going to be the next agent, which a lot of these guys have. They think they can be an agent because, they've got half a brain, but it doesn't work like that. It's about contacts. If you're going to be a good agent, you need contacts.
So, is that your phone?
Yeah, of course, I'm an agent. Phone's always ringing. Sorry, I'll turn that off.
So, let's keep going, eh? That's it, isn't it? All the time.
There you go, non-stop.
Right, non-stop. What are the characteristics then of a good agent?
Of a good agent?
So when I say good as well, I mean a successful agent.
Yeah, well, I think that the ship has sailed, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I took a big step back, because it's very difficult to compete with those big agencies because they've got that clientele. But that doesn't necessarily make them a good agent, because again, if you're coming through and you are a player and I'm a big agency and I've got the likes of Rio Ferdinand or whoever, and I want to represent you, that's good on one hand. But again, if you've got half a brain about you, if the player's got half a brain, you go, okay, well, you've got him, why are you going to bother with me?
That's it.
So that's when there's an opportunity for someone like myself, who doesn't work for one of the big agencies, and it's kind of that Jerry Maguire thing. It's kind of giving you that personal attention.
Is that the dream of a lot of people who want to become an agent? They watch Jerry Maguire, see that connection.
No, but you know what? It should be, because if you look at that Jerry Maguire, and funny enough, believe it or not, when I was in university, that's when the film came out. Yeah. And it was about personal attention and having that one-to-one, and kind of that's what I wanted. I wanted to have that personal relationship, and that's why I call myself a manager now rather than agent, because for me, if I'm looking after someone, I want to have that personal relationship. And you might not be the biggest agent out there, and you might not be the best agent out there, but you can be the best agent for a certain player. Now, I've had a couple of players like that, and like one of them is Ashley Williams. I wasn't the best agent at all. I didn't work for the best agency, but I was definitely the best agent for him at that particular time in his career. And that's what you kind of need to find, those little pockets of players that you can do a job for. You're going to put the time and attention into him because you want to develop him and shape his career. And a good agent can do that. Don't be misled. If you're a good agent, you can help a player cultivate his career, 100%.
So there is that, it's clear that you have that feeling in terms of wanting to be an agent. But there is a reputation amongst football fans, you hear Alex Ferguson talk about it, Gary Neville talk about it. There's a bad reputation around agents and their involvement in football. Do you think that's fair? Yep. Really?
Oh yeah, I think it's well, maybe not fair, but I totally understand it. And I've been on the end of there's some ridiculously bad agents out there, and some of the stories I know are frightening, really, really bad. And it's not just about the money they're taking out of the game; it's how they're taking the money out of the game.
Can you give one?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's one guy I know, and he's still operating now, and he's involved in a big transfer at the moment that was ongoing in January, and he was working for an agency, and he was negotiating the contract for the player. Went to the club itself, and you have to sign a form where the money's going to go. Right. And the agent, instead of putting the agency's bank details, he put his own bank details on there. He got done with police, went to court. He's still now one of the most regarded agents in the business. Unbelievable. There's cases that I know of where an agent will tap up a player through an existing player. So say if I've got a player, let's just say at Man United, and there's a kid coming through, I'll say to that player, who my player is, I've got a relationship with him, that okay, I want you to get me into that player. If you get me into a player, I'll make sure you're taken care of. So I know an example where that happened at a lower league club, and the agent knew that a bigger club in the Premier League were interested in him. He said to his player in the first team, get me that player and I'll make sure you're sorted out. Moved that player to the club. Now when you sign a player, you always say, okay, you normally, the fee for advice 5% of the annual gross basic salary. So you'd be taking 5% of what they take home a week. And you say to the player, I'm going to get the club to play that for you on top. So not only did he tapped his player up, moved the player straight to the club, and he said to the player, look, I'm going to get the club to pay for that 5%, don't worry about it. But contractually, the player said, that the player's going to sign it, pay the agent the 5%.
Right.
He moves the player to the club. He said to the club, okay, I want you to pay the 5%. The club say no problem. He goes back to the player and says, no, the club wouldn't pay it, so you've got to pay my 5%. A few months down the line, the player twigged out what was going on, confronted the agent, and the agent went, yeah, I did that. And he was £1 million better off. You know, what does he care? He's on the beach for the rest of his life. So, yeah, there's some horror stories out there. So I understand totally the bad reputation out there. What I would say is unfair is that there are some really good agents out there who do a good job, and you know, fair enough, you're not going to hear about them because no one's really.
So tell you what, give me a percentage. How many of those, in your experience, in terms of a percentage, have dodginess involved in them?
Well, dodginess is in the football agent world is there's a lot of grey area, shall we say?
Right.
You know, if you've got a player who's doing well in the lower leagues and a bigger club's interested in him, and that bigger club's on the phone to you, speaking about that player, now that's, you know, really by the book, that's tapping up. But that goes on, of course it goes on, because they want to know his contract details, they want to know when it's up, if he'd be interested in moving to their club. So straight from the off, you know, you're kind of straight into that grey area. So, you know, a lot of the deals will have that going on. There's just
if fans are thinking that any players are not constantly being called by other clubs.
Yeah, but the flip side,
are they being deluded?
They're being deluded. What they're being deluded about is that the player will come out in the press and say, you know, I'm not interested in a move. And you are kidding me. I've had that before, where players literally on my case all the time. Right, what clubs are you speaking to? Who are you speaking to? At the press, I love my time at this club. That's all I want to be. And totally, that's the way it's got to be. Obviously, they can't say, oh no, my agent's on the phone. But of course, but a lot of the time, it's them pushing it. You know, you hear all the time, oh, the agent's pushing for that move. Yeah, all right, the agent wants to make money, but you can bet your life the player is pushing that move, because my experience, if you've got a player who's in the non-league, which I've had, he wants to be playing in League 2. If you've got a player playing in League 2, he wants to play League 1 Championship, Premier League,
so
Man United, Arsenal. Man United, Arsenal wants to be at Real Madrid, Barcelona. After that, you know, luckily I haven't had a player, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But so you've got these clubs, these players want to be where the money is. And they want to be where the money is, so they know that they can't pick up the phone themselves, so they're going to be on the phone to you. Agent, who have you called? You know, what did he think about me? So those players are driving the moves as much as the agent, you can bet your life.
Deadline day. We're at Ball Street and the Social Club. We like to do things a little bit differently.
Welcome to Ball Street.
I will take that.
Mr. Ian Riser's here.
Not just Vardy, Shane Long as well.
Running